John Tong, Professor of Politics at the University of Liverpool. On the 5th of May, we've got a very, very important vote on whether to change our voting system. The voting system that we currently have is first past the post. What does that mean? It means that the candidate who gets the most votes in a constituency wins the seat. What the vote is about on the 5th of May is whether to keep that system or whether to change it to the alternative vote, in which you don't put a cross on your ballot paper by one particular candidate. What you can do is rank the candidates who are standing in the election, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. And if a candidate to be elected, the candidate has to have 50% of the votes cast. So if none of the candidates on the first count get 50% of the vote, what happens is that the least popular candidate at the bottom of the poll, his or her votes are eliminated, and their second preferences are then added to the remaining candidates until someone has 50% of the vote or more to be elected. Alternative vote would affect half the constituencies on Merseyside. In other words, at the moment, half of our MPs are elected by more than 50% of those who cast their votes. So alternative vote wouldn't make any difference. They'd be home and hosed, those candidates, whichever system we use. But in half the constituencies, ranging from Southport in the north of the region down to Wirral in the south, the alternative vote mechanism would make a difference. In other words, in those constituencies, the current MP was not elected by more than 50% of the electors, and therefore what there'd have to be would be a second round after the votes have been cast, in which the bottom candidate in those constituencies, someone, say for example from the UK Independence Party, they would be eliminated, and the second preference votes of those who voted for the UKIP candidate, for example, would be added to each of the other candidates until someone gets over 50% of the vote. Sounds slightly complicated, but isn't really. It wouldn't take that long to do. So in other words, it can be UKIP supporters, it could be BNP supporters. Whoever comes bottom of the poll, their second preferences in about half the constituencies across our region that's where alternative vote would make a difference. Whether it would dramatically affect the outcome, it's difficult to say, but there are some constituencies like Wirral South that are very close, or Wirral West, where it could make a difference, the alternative vote. You could have a different result, a different MP from a different party, if alternative vote was used. The Liberal Democrats are the party that stands to benefit most, because they, at least used to be, everyone's second choice, and therefore they would be the second preference for most electors. Whether that's still the case in an era of university tuition fees and anti-Nick Clegg sentiment, I think, is another matter. I think people should give a lot of thought to this particular contest. Referendums are very rare. The last time we had a UK-wide referendum on any issue was way back in 1975, when we voted on whether to stay in what was then known as the European Economic Community. So these type of referendums don't come round very often, so people really ought to vote. I think those people who go out and vote in the local elections, which is normally about 35 to 40% of people, I think they will, of course, vote. Why wouldn't you vote on, if you've already got one particular ballot paper in your hand, you might as well vote in the referendum. I think the question is, will other people who don't intend voting in the local elections turn up at the polling station to vote on an alternative vote referendum? And I do have my doubts. I would predict the turnout to be less than 50% of the population as a whole. I think that's a shame, because it's really, really important that the people themselves decide what type of voting system we want. How we elect our parliamentarians is really, really important. People should care, and we may not get the chance again to vote on how we elect our parliamentarians. So I would urge everyone to at least vote whichever way they wish to choose. You know, it's a straightforward yes, you want alternative vote, or it's a straightforward no, you want to keep our current first past the post system. All the opinion polls now suggest that the no campaign is going to win. In other words, those who don't want change are going to win. So we would keep our first past the post system. I think the opinion polls may slightly exaggerate the lead of the no campaign, because I think that people who want to bring about change, the yes voters to alternative vote, they're more likely to vote perhaps than those who simply want to say no. So it may be a slightly softer lead in the opinion polls. But at the moment it appears that people don't want change. That's not to say they resoundingly endorse our first past the post system, but they do see that it's nice and simple. And it would be more interesting, I think, if there was a referendum on whether you had a fully proportional voting system. But we've only got these two choices in front of us. Status quo, keep things as you are, in which case you vote no, or you vote yes to change and the alternative vote. The no's have it at the moment. That wasn't the case a year ago. When this referendum decision was first taken to have a referendum, it appeared that the yes campaign would win, but public opinion appears to have swung behind the no campaign, and that's provoked a lot of outrage amongst the yes campaigners. They're accusing the no campaigners of dirty tricks.